Everyone. How is everyone doing? Welcome to RE Behind the Scenes. Every Thursday, I host an episode of either RE Behind the Scenes or Transformation Time. I am your host, Diana Lizarazo, and today's guest speaker is Juan Fano. On RE Behind the Scenes, our guest speakers share their experiences with you to help you with yours. And so today we'll be going through what kind of problem. We'll be going through the property. So either we get to view it, or they'll tell us what it's about. We'll get to run those numbers. So we'll hear about what the numbers were like. And best of all, the most fun part is getting to hear about the problems encountered, how they solve them, and if it was something new, then we get to hear about what they would do differently next time. So guys, I would love to get some hearts. Let's get our guest speaker in and show some love. So let's see. He's not on yet. Tell me what you guys, while we wait for Juan to come on, tell me what your real estate strategies are. I would love to hear, what are you guys doing with this economy right now? There's a lot of at least here in Ontario. Actually, I would love to hear what everyone is up to these days, which cities you're in. Like, we're in Ontario, we're close to Toronto, we're specifically in Oakville, but the places we like to look at are like Hamilton, Toronto, actually wherever there's a good deal, to be honest, as long as it's in the GTA or close enough. I can see though that Juan's on, so let me now get him in. Please share where you guys are from. And let's give some hearts also to Juan for coming on. Let's just make sure. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see you. Perfect. Hey, Juan.
Hey, Diana, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great, great. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming on. So let's get started. Let's let the viewers know a little bit about you. What's your real estate strategy? What's your experience like? Whatever you'd like to share.
Well, first, my name is Juan Fano. My real estate investment starts back in 2019 when I joined one of these groups for masterminds and trying to understand how this system works, where I met you at the same time at the time. At that point, everything was confusing. I didn't know how to start or anything. I ended up in 2020 or 2019 buying my first property with a partner. Nothing special. We didn't know what we were doing. We just bought a townhouse in Grimsby, Ontario, very close by to Hamilton. Nothing special. We rented out for a year. Then, as you know, with all the COVID, prices go high enough to just resell it after and make some profit and start just doing more and more. At this point, I did wholesaling, I did a flip, and I'm sitting right now in one of my first and I would say biggest project so far, the duplex conversion in Hamilton. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have done so far.
Awesome. Are we gonna do a walkthrough of the property?
Yeah.
Of the deal, or you want to describe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, just give people. Let's start with, or actually, while you walk around, but like it would be good to know, just letting people know also what was your initial plans on the what you plan to do, and then afterwards we can talk about the changes and everything else. But yeah, feel free to show and describe what you've done,
Well,
what the plan was.
I think that I have here in front of me in the computer all the pictures of how the house looks before, so you kind of have an idea, and then after how it got transformed to what it is right now. At the beginning, the plan was to make it a duplex. The market was booming at the point, and we were just expecting to finish it and resell it. It's pretty much a flip.
When did you buy this property?
We closed on it on December 2022. Yeah, December 2022. Sorry, my bad. In January 2022, so pretty much 1 year ago. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point the market's still going up. Then after do the shifting, but we will talk about that later. Let me just turn this thing and I can show you more or less, so I can explain a little bit what I was trying to tell you. So here, can you see? Okay. So this is pretty much how it looks before. In the outside, we didn't do much, but you will start looking. This was the house. It's in Hamilton, very close to downtown. Main intersection is Barton and James Street, the upcoming James Street. And as you can see, it's a very dated house. It's a big lot. It was 58 by 105 in Hamilton with a lot of parking space. And just cutting in, this is how the kitchen looks like before. Very dated, right? This was the living room / dining room, common area, main entrance. This has the stairs to the basement, a closet, first room, second room. It was kind of tiny. This was the bathroom. Okay, this is the basement.
What is oh yeah, so what are the heights of the basement?
Well, height enough to make a legal duplex. At this point, finish it, you probably go what do you call almost 6'something", 6'2", 6'1".
6'2", yeah. I think 6'2" is what's in Hamilton, right? 6'2" I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that the minimum that they can have, if I'm not mistaken, on the bulkhead is 73. But we're well above that. Yeah, this pretty much, it was running before as with a boiler and a water tank.
So you have to choose that too?
I'll show you when we walked. It's pretty much a very big property, and the garage is all attached to the same property, so it's going to be fun to see. So that was how it was looking before, right? So now I'm just going to go a little bit on here. Sorry about the mess. We just recently moved to this property. So this is how that kitchen, we open up the wall, so it be like a kind of an open concept.
Really?
Completely the kitchen. In the previous, you saw the living room. This living room, that's the protector of the house, as you can see in the window.
He's keeping an eye on everyone for you.
Exactly. If you remember when we walked here, they were here, the stairs. What we did was open this wall here, so give it an extra access here. We turned the stairs here into a laundry room here. This is, I'm sorry about the people who was here before, but I'm showing their room. This is a room.
So in the main floor, it's a 3-bedroom.
It's a 3-bedroom unit.
And one bathroom.
And one bathroom.
And so that means that since you guys removed the stairs and put laundry in, that means that you have now only outside access to the downstairs, right?
That's correct. Now they have their separate entrance. And I did not mention the plan on this one at the same time. It's not just only do a duplex, it's trying to convert into more units, as Hamilton is giving the chance to do that now. Without variances, more like legal. So we're working on that.
I think that was passed last year, right? Mid last year, where now they allow more units.
Yeah. At the time that we did the duplex conversion, we thought about what they call the garden suite or SDUs. However, because this garage is attached to the property, it was not completely approved. So we have to go to a variance. But at that point, they were not accepting variances. So we didn't go to that process. We said, okay, we're gonna just do the duplex, and then down the road we will see for the other unit. Now it's not only one more. Now we can do 2 more. So that's gonna be the plan eventually.
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna take you outside. I'm gonna take my jacket because it's a little bit rainy outside. Just bear with me 1 sec.
No problem. Yeah, today is it's very rainy outside. That's for sure.
Not the best
It's
to go
all
out,
day
but
too. Are you guys, is it everyone else in the audience? Are you guys, is it rainy where you guys are too? Are you guys in the GTA? Let us know if you're in the GTA, because I think all the GTA we're just like swamped with so much rain right now.
I could tell you that Hamilton is pouring a little bit, not too much now, but still.
hmm
So there is
Okay.
a little bit of renovation in this street. Actually, that house they just bought it and still doing renovation. They just finished that one too on the side. So it's pretty much changing right now.
hmm
So two separate meters,
Oh,
hydrometers for
nice. Question for you. That's you guys added that in, right?
yes, correct. Like before it was just 1 meter. So we request that to the city. They allowed it to maximize, not maximize, to increment our amperage. So we pretty much have now two separate panels, and everything is split between the units. Um,
Nice. And so how much, I'm curious, because I've actually never had to deal with splitting it. How much did it cost you to split? This is just splitting the electricity, right?
yes, this one, yes, the hydro between the units. Yeah. So you want to know more or less how much it costed?
Yeah, on average, I wouldn't mind knowing.
Well,
And I'm sure the audience wouldn't mind knowing too.
if I'm not mistaken, just for the hydrometers, I think you had for the meters you have to pay like $1,500. We do it like a bundle because we have to rewire the whole house. So all the pricing for rewiring the whole house, the meters, the panels, the breakers, everything that they have to do, I'll tell you, was probably something in between 20 and 25K to do the whole
Yeah,
thing.
that makes sense. That would make sense because I know like the panel and wiring a whole, well, maybe not the whole house you wired, or you wired just the downstairs, or
No,
rewiring of downstairs.
we rewire the whole house, upstairs and downstairs, and we add
Okay.
a little bit electricity to the garage as well.
Yeah. So
Um,
then my guess would be that from just like my experience of it, I think it was probably around 10 grand just to do the panel and the whole electrical house, but do the electrical, and then probably another 10 grand just to get to do the separate. Oh wait, because yeah, it's two panels. So it'd be a little bit more. Two panels plus the extra, because I've always wondered actually, people have always said 10 grand, but it sounds like what you're saying is true because it's like 10 grand just to add that extra paneling, and usually it's around 10 grand to like rewire a house and add an extra panel.
see,
So
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, I do believe that that's kind of the average for what I've seen in other projects for other partners that I know, where they have to rewire the whole thing. That's kind of the average for the pricing. So I guess
Okay.
so. We
Yeah,
were
that's good. That's good to know.
kind of
I've never known, and it's always good to have an idea how accurate, or I mean, I've always known what people like, what I've seen online and stuff, but it's always nice to kind of get the proper, like get it from someone that's actually
yeah.
done it, because I've always ever just read it online.
All right. Yeah. Well,
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
no worries. I'm just gonna show this is the entrance for the other units. Right now we're still in the process because I don't know if I mentioned it's not rented. We're trying to do a short-term rental or mid-term rental for this unit. We're actually finishing this week everything that is still missing to accomplish. Here, this is when you get to the, like I call this staging area where this is connected under the exit, the second exit for the main unit. And if you go to this way, I'll show you, this is pretty much the garage. Anything, we haven't finished anything here yet because as I mentioned, this is the plan to create 2 more units in this space and probably adding a second story to this area, just on top of me right now.
Mm. So
We have
you're planning to do what, two bachelors in there or two one bedrooms? What do you plan?
well, I'll be honest, I think the upstairs might be a little bit smaller, so I think one, maybe squeeze one plus then it could be an option. Here, definitely we can do two because here, what is going to happen is we're going to close this area. We're going to do like a kind of a rectangle in this area to kind of separate this basement unit and having another access to this area. But not only this, we have still more down here.
Hopefully it's cutting out a little. Hopefully he can get into the unit, I'm sure it'll be better again.
Like, are you here? Can you hear me?
Oh,
Anna?
do you want to go directly into the unit? Because I think the basement is I mean, sorry, not the basement. The garage is probably making the reception kind of bad.
Yeah, I think I call it a bunker because it's pretty much concrete all over. So most
Hmm.
likely. So this is pretty much the basement unit. I'm just gonna turn on the lights.
And the basement unit is what, a 2-bedroom?
It's a 2 bedroom. I'll show you the first one here. It's a very big bedroom. I think it was 13 by 11 or something.
Oh wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And you can see the nice thing about this basement is the windows are big enough to believe that it's not looking like a basement. You know, like the windows are just right on the, I would say, in the stairs on the front. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't actually feel, and if you can see, I'm stretching my hands and I barely touching the ceiling right now.
Oh, so
So
you must be then. It would be then. It's probably more closer even to 7 feet then. Probably like 6, 8, or 5 or something like that.
well, you know that I'm more like a meter person. I think this might be 220, like 2 meters,
Mm-hmm.
20 something. I would call it
Mm-hmm.
like that. This is the
Yeah,
kitchen
yeah.
downstairs.
Oh,
We're
really nice.
Thank you. We're finishing today an accent wall here. Don't ask me why, but we're doing it. Partner loves them, so we're doing that. This is the bathroom. Uh,
Oh, nice.
Very simple. I love the mirror here. Another thing, this was a big project. We had to change, as I mentioned, we have a boiler and a tank. We made like a new completely furnace, tank glass, um, everything by code, because as you know, to make an illegal duplex, you need to have all these regulations and follow all
Mm-hmm.
the steps that
Oh,
they
and I
said.
can see you guys have like that fire shut up valve.
Yeah.
We haven't had to do that one yet.
Oh,
That I
cool.
think I wonder how new that is. 'Cause I haven't had to use it, but I have seen other houses that have to put it on.
Well, as per my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, all legal duplexes should have one of those when you are connecting the
Yeah,
furnaces together.
it
So that's
is. Yeah, that's definitely what it's for. I mean, and it may also depend on maybe the city too, because I know we had a we have a triplex in Tilsonburg,
mm-hmm.
and that one didn't require it. And that was 2, 3 years ago that we did that one, and that didn't require it. So it could also be by cities. I'm sure like the bigger cities probably have much more like stronger standards than places like Tilsonburg.
Most likely. And so yeah, we had to do that. This is the other bedroom as well. It's in a pretty good size. I haven't shown you the panels, but this is one of the panels they are downstairs. We kind of isolated all the walls, the external wall with spray foam. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, everything was changed. Everything is up to code. We upgrade each
Yeah. So
panel
this
for
was
one.
a full gut project. Like
It,
you went basically to the studs.
well, even more
Like,
here.
did you have to
Not
do
even
it?
the
You
studs.
have to insulate the whole house, right?
We insulate all the basement, right?
Mm.
We like this is completely insulated because at the time that we got all those wood panels that I showed you in the previous picture and how it was before, the house is pretty much concrete and kind of this rock structure that kind of falling a little bit. So what we did was using not as an structural the insulation, but just try to cover that and try to avoid some kind of filtration. It's not a waterproofing, but it helps.
Mm-hmm.
And upstairs, as a matter of fact, we don't have that much of insulation. The walls are pretty much the concrete, the blocks to the plaster upstairs. So we don't have that insulation on the walls, and we're planning right now to add attic insulation that we actually didn't know that takes a lot of your Enbridge bills. So we're planning to do that this week. Uh, So yeah, I mean that's pretty much. This is the basement. As you can
So
see,
upstairs was a full cosmetic then, mainly. Although you had to also do electrical there too.
oh yeah,
And
yes,
then downstairs was a full, actual full gut to the studs.
correct, correct.
Mhm.
And I'm
Awesome.
just
And in the
opening this.
basement, there was an existing bathroom or there wasn't?
There was an existing bathroom that we kind of used. We moved a little bit the points, but there was an existing bathroom already. They have some water actually was uh, in this bedroom, but we ended up moving all the way back to the other side because it makes more sense. So it didn't help that much, but like I said, it's a fully got job that what we did here, and yeah, like took a lot of time, as you can see. We closed on January, so
Mhm.
pretty much took almost a year because also I'm just gonna start closing it so we can go upstairs again. Um,
Sounds good.
um, I was talking about the permits. We started this pretty much in pandemic, so the permits were taking probably almost 4 months. It took just to get the permits to start the whole
Mhm.
project, right?
Yeah.
Closing this.
And were you expecting that? I think 4 months is probably was still long, right? Because I feel like at that time we were thinking it was more like 3 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you never know, right? Like some people will tell you, "Oh, it took me 2, or it took me 4, it took me 1." Like I have
Mm.
a few other people who were doing a few projects with permits that they
In
actually finished.
Hamilton that you're talking about? Like in Hamilton there was differences? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, I didn't know that. Because I know, for
in
example,
Hamilton, yeah,
Toronto was awesome. We did permits there and it was like 1 month and it's done. Like those guys are on the ball at least.
yeah, not for this one.
Hamilton was not equipped for COVID, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like this house is a lot of experience for me because everything that I won't say everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, but it took a few challenges to do the
Added a
whole thing.
couple gray hairs to the head.
Oh yeah, I have them here. As you can see here on the side, I'm start getting those right away. And
Oh,
so
that's
yeah,
funny.
so
So
I'm
how
glad
much
that
was
you
your
can see.
renovations for this for
Well,
duplexing?
this one was
Or let's
around.
go with the estimated. Sorry, what did you expect, and then what did it turn out to be?
Well, I'll tell you this. From the very beginning, we knew that it was going to be a lot of work, a lot of money. We actually borrowed some money to try to finish all the renovations. We did some job, very minimum. We hired a general contractor to do this part, majority of the work, for not saying all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I was expecting something in the league for 190 to 230. That
Mm-hmm.
was kind of my idea of how it was for this project. And it went that exactly like that. So at the end, it was 190, the amount
Okay.
that this
So
cost.
so then at least in the budget sense, you were within the budget what you expected it to be.
Yeah, yeah. We have a couple of 3 contractors actually who walked it and they got off the quotes for it. One was a little bit more expensive than the other one. At the end, we went with what we thought was the best option, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Uh, One of my advices is always trying to bring at least 3 contractors to give you an estimate, and then whatever it is that, as you know, like I'm not the most expert on the construction side, but I had some idea on a few things. So whatever it put like a red flag, I will start asking. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm happy
And
with
it
the whole.
also just helps because if you have like that, at least 3 people, 3 different companies, everyone writes their quotes differently. And even just reading those, I feel like it's a learning experience. And then you're just bouncing ideas within contractors, wondering, why they don't have something in their quote or what it is or whatever. So it is also good not only for getting like just to get an average idea of what it is, but also even like that, just like a quote is really telling, I feel like, and it just kind of even helps you if you don't know very much about renovations. I feel like it kind of helps you like learn about it in a general sense.
Correct. And I'm grateful because at the same time I have other people or friends that I call that are in the same business, and they kind of input some kind of advices, and
Mm-hmm.
I always
Yeah.
call them for just advice, because if I don't know
Yeah,
anything, I prefer to
that's
ask someone
great
else.
advice. That's actually very interesting you say that because I was also speaking to someone else that they got scammed was because they were doing it alone. So it's like understanding the importance of the community and using them and asking questions is so important because like that different people have different experiences, have gone through different kind of problems. And it's just nice to hear their points of view to kind of assess what you think is best for you.
Correct. Correct. You're totally right.
Awesome. So what did you purchase the house for?
This one was 750.
750. And then you said, sorry, 190 or 180, right?
190.
190?
Yeah.
And then and you held it for a year. You said about a little over a year, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much a year.
And then so
Right.
what were your like monthly expenses like?
Well, this one I got here pretty much were like, it were not too high. We're like 3,300 because we had an A lender, and we get the properties when the 1.9% still up for mortgages. So it was not too high. When you see those 6%, it doesn't
So
scare
were
me
you
that we need to pay.
guys fixed?
At the point, no, but then after, we'll do. Right now, we're just in the process actually to see if a refi or a HELOC or a second mortgage. We're trying to see what is the path to trying to access back to some cash to pay to some of the borrowers that we got. Because, well, I know that I don't know if all the people who come here and tell their stories are nice and shiny. This one, I'll tell you, is a little bit tough because we went from the peak of the market to a shifted market where now appraisals are not going nicely as they were used to. When we bought the property, we pretty much estimate based on the numbers and the market at that point, 1.2, 1.3 could be the numbers around. At that point, it was going to be a perfect bird. Right now, not at all. Like, if you ask me, if you want the truth, we came back with 980, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm pretty much there. So right now, what I'm trying to do is just pull out all the capital that we can, try to pull those borrowers. And that's the other reason I move in, like I mentioned to you before, but I moved in just to try these properties for the long run. This is not to try to pull everything right away. Like I said, I don't know if I'm an expert or not, but for me, it's trying to secure this property, hold it for long enough to try to get into those 2 extra units. And at that point, we'll start talking about cash flow and more appreciation. At the same time, when we start this, I mentioned the SDU or the garden suite in Hamilton. They were not anything approved at the time, and I don't want to be the first one trying, because as you know,
I hear you. I'm the same. I'm like, let the guinea pigs go first, and then I'll come afterwards.
So right now I'm in the same situation with these 3-4 units. So they said, let someone else to tell them that. So do it, and then we'll talk with the appraisers, and depending on what we can see, maybe we put the money in to try to get those 2 extra units. So at that point, then we might be able to take all the money out.
Yeah. And going back to, because we got cut off in the garage, so I just wanted to understand, because you said that in your garage there's an upstairs, so you're planning to do in the future a unit upstairs and in the garage. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. When you get down to that level before you get into the basement unit, that area there, we're gonna close the basement unit with another square wall, whatever, to just separate that unit and have another door for this area. Okay, so this area, what is the garage itself, and that area with the bottom that is like under the garage, there are more space. I think that's exactly where I cut, because it was completely under, like it's a basement in the basement or something like that. So we were pretty much under the land. So at that point we can create there probably 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, actually,
Oh,
decent size.
nice.
And then I want to do a second story because I, based on what I've seen from the city and from my neighbor, I can do a second story back there. And there we can do probably a 1 bedroom, 1+ then maybe, depending. We still having still more space in the back of that garage, so we can extend either. We have, I didn't show you actually, but we have the previous owners create like a kind of a storage area there with some plywood or whatever, not too pretty or beautiful, but it's useful. And also in the back, they have a container, a sea can. It's a 20-foot sea can, it's huge. So we have a space to do something here. At the same time,
I think I've seen this house before. Was this the one you talked about that it's like the dungeon?
yeah,
Like a long time ago?
that
Oh,
one.
I've seen this house. Okay.
That one is this one. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're going to be able to definitely get a lot done. And so I want to go back to, so we went through the numbers and then so now you're hopefully soon you're going to check how much if it's worth it to refi or just stay with what you have. But so now you were talking about basically that your plans at the beginning were to rent both units out, right?
Yeah.
And then now you've pivoted and now you're living in one unit and then downstairs you will do a short-term rental.
Yeah. Let me touch a little bit more in that. Like this last year, my partner and I, who we hold this property, we have too many issues with tenant and boards trying to acquire properties with tenants. It sucks, and I don't want to deal with that anymore, at least here in Ontario, for now, until something gets better. So I sit down with him and talking. We could rent these 2 units, but what happens if someone decides to be a perfect tenant, professional tenant, what they call them, and they stop paying, and we cannot do anything. Like, and the position that we are, owing some money to some lenders, we cannot afford. We cannot afford that. So it's kind of mitigate the risk in that way. Like maybe I could get a little bit more by renting, yes, but I prefer to be on the safe spot in this point, in this market, in this time. I don't want to deal with that. So what I said is I'm moving in. At the same time, I can do some work to try to make this property looks better, start something that I can do slowly. My job at the same time, working from home, allows me to have that extra time. So that's kind of the idea of why I decided to move in. The short-term rental or the mid-term rental downstairs kind of go for the same side. I just want to, everybody's talking about Airbnb, everybody's talking about midterm, everybody, like, I know that it's a little bit saturated because I'm not going to lie to anyone, it's saturated, but we're just going to try. We'll see what is happening. If it works, works. If it doesn't work, we'll try to do the best to rent it to the best tenant as possible. If someone is looking for a basement in Hamilton, this area, actually, we're Barton and James Street, the main intersection is pretty close by. As some people know, James is a very nice street with a lot of restaurants, cafes, and they call the uptrending area in downtown Hamilton. And at the same time, we're like 2-3 minutes walking from the GO train station. So it's pretty much right there in the corner. So it's a pretty good location wise. I know that Hamilton is well known that Barton is not the best street, but it's changing. As I mentioned before, the house in front of it is renovating, the one they renovated last year. So it's getting better and better. So I'm pretty sure that this property in I would say a couple of or 3 years will be in a pretty good spot.
So when you bought this property, you had tenants in there, right?
No, this one. This
it's another one that you had tenants in?
Correct. So
and I'm just curious on, just because we might as well know about it, because like you were talking about that you're trying to not have as many tenants. What kind of problems did you encounter then with your other properties that made you think it's better right now for you to move in?
Well, I'm going to talk about another property that my partner and I bought. That was March last year too, so it's pretty much 2 months after we closed on this one. We closed on it. Both it was a duplex in another area in another city. We closed on it, and the tenants were there. We knew some of them were behind of payments. The deal was good at the time. Once again, we're talking about even peak on the market because we secured that in November 2021. So that was a pretty good market, and the price was awesome. So when we closed, tenants stopped paying, and we went to one for both of them for the tenant on board. As you know, it took 10 months, probably. I think it was a little bit less than that, 8 months, something like that. We were able to get our units back, and actually we had to do cash for keys for one of them. Actually for two of them, because we gave them the other one a little bit afterwards. But yeah, like we entered the property, and at the point that we entered it, we were in a spot that the market was not great. So yeah, like we have to deal with that at the same time.
But so
and
you inherited the tenants then,
correct.
And that was the issue. That it was more like that was the issue because you just didn't know what kind of tenants you were inheriting, and you did know though there were some that weren't paying, but you just didn't know, I guess, to the level of how bad these tenants were, right?
Yes and no. I knew that some of them were behind of payments, but for what I knew, they were catching up. That's what I knew. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they then suddenly stopped paying. I know that someone has some issues like illnesses, and so at that point I didn't want to get too much stuff on them, so I just let the tenant on board to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, like what I want to avoid is just this thing. I would rather to have my own tenants, where if I made a mistake, it was myself acquiring the wrong
Mm-hmm.
tenant. But once again, the main issue here is not picking up the wrong tenant. The main issue here is the tenant on board is not working properly. Properly. Like this time is taking too long, and something needs to be done. But that's a whole different conversation.
And it is a good point that you're making, though, that you want to live in it right now. Because I would say, in the sense of finding good tenants, it is pretty easy to like make sure. Like if you ever do need help, feel free to call me because I've been very good at finding good tenants, and it does require like a lot of research and just making sure that they're all good. But a good point that you're making that I kind of want to emphasize to people is that we're starting to go down in like a lot of evictions are going to start happening. People can't afford. A lot of people are going to start losing their jobs. So I think it is actually a good idea that you are living in it for now. And let's say at least a short term, like 6 months to a year, let's say, if you want to live long, but I'm saying like for other people, because at least within that time, we're going to go through the purging of people who can't afford the houses. And then who's ever left, you'll know, like the ones that still maintain their jobs, still have that good credit report and all these things, that those will be left, and those are the ones that you would want to have, those good tenants. So I think it is a good idea that you're doing that because it's probably, I mean, I'm not saying that you can't find good tenants right now, but I definitely think it's like we're going to go through a phase of a lot of job losses. And it's probably best to like wait that happens. Although that being said, I can tell you 2 of my units are going vacant in a month or two. So, but but then again, it's about being strict, right? I'm going to be just very strict about the kind of tenants that's going in to hopefully be able to weather through it. But yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that I feel like that is also a good alternative that you're doing that, because I think like that we're going to be seeing a wave of a lot of evictions going through, and just a lot of people losing their jobs, which they won't be able to afford their rents.
Yeah, totally. Like I didn't think about that in that way, and you're totally right. Like if whatever is still out there with those good credits and everything, it should be people who can afford these places. However, the point that I want to make is just moving in at the same time, and all this problem with the tenants is too easy. Like if you think like a decent person, it can happen. Like, I'm going to put an example of me. Like, what happened if I'm not a full-time investor yet? I still have in my job, my 9 to 5. But what happened if tomorrow I lose my job, right? It could happen. Like, you never know, right? Like, it could happen tomorrow. It could happen in 1 month. You never know. And I'm considering myself a decent person, but I have a wife, a daughter, and people that I need to pretty much feed, right? So it could happen to anyone, and you could say, okay, well, I don't have money. What I'm gonna do? I stop paying rent. I need to feed my daughter, and I understand. Like, you have.
Yeah. And let me give you an example though, because we're actually going through that right now. And this gives you a great example of what a good tenant is and what a bad tenant is. So we have a tenant that leaves end of this month. They lost their job, so they haven't paid, I believe, 1 month's rent is basically missing. One or maybe two, I can't remember at the moment. But what happened? Because this tenant is a good tenant, because they care about their credit score, because we've kept good rapport with them and everything, these people are leaving on their own will, and they're trying to figure out things themselves.
Okay.
So I feel like that is also, like, there's a lot involved in it, right? And don't get me wrong, there are situations where, like you said, like you lose your job and then you maybe decide, like, screw your credit score, screw everything, like there's nothing you can do, recession's happening, and like you said, like family's important and they need to at least have a roof under their head kind of a thing. Then maybe you go that route. But I think when you're finding a better tenant, to be honest, I think that when you're finding like good tenants, I think the chances of, like, and if you're good to them too, like if you're not exploding on them or like going crazy and like trying to work things out and trying to figure out a solution, I think good tenants will work with you. But again, that's not every case. But I just wanted to tell people of like the scenario I'm going through, because yes, I'm like losing 1 or 2 months rent, but I'm not having to go through the eviction, so I'm not having to wait those 6 to 10 months, and I may be out maybe another month or two, because again, like I'm going to be strict with finding that good tenant to put into the property. So I think also this is the time to definitely have the patience to find a good quality tenant.
Well, one thing I pointed out, it actually happened to me when I was living in Toronto. I was living on an apartment with my wife. COVID happened. She lost her job, and at some point I text my tenant. The rent I think was like $2,000 a month. I said, "Listen, I don't think that I could pay the rent. So I think I might gonna start looking for other cheaper options." So he texted me back and said, "Let's do this because we were good to each other. Like if something breaks down and I can replace it, I will replace it. I won't bother him." I said, no, I want to keep you. So what about if we put it in I think it was 1,500 for now until everything goes back to normal, and then we'll talk after. That helps me a lot.
Yeah.
And actually.
And like that, right? You weren't thinking, I'm going to screw this guy over and do whatever, right? Like, this is what I mean. Like, if you find good tenants, communication is open, and you guys, like, are having that relationship, or at least your property managers are good at doing that. Like that, it's all about solving problems and figuring it out. Like that, in your case, end up working out that, I think 500, so like a 500 discount helped you out, right? In my case, they just decided that they're just going to go live with their family because they just want to like not have to pay any rent, I guess, right now, right? But like this is what good tenants do, like that. Like you were a good tenant, you were just like, let me see, like your thought was like, I'll just leave, but your landlord's like, I love you, like you're a good tenant, I want to keep you, right? So it's like, let's work it out, right? So I want to emphasize that because I do see like a lot of people are always very against like Ontario and saying like tenants tenants are terrible and this and that. But I think it is going both ways. Like if you don't find that awesome tenant, that's, to be honest, on you, and if you're not keeping the lines of communication open, again, I feel like that's on you. And I mean on you, on us, like not you exactly, right? Like
I
on
hear you. I
us,
hear you.
like it's on
I
the
hear you.
landlord, right? That if we're not doing these things, we're not doing our job well. Like what happens if you're not doing your job well? Obviously, then what's happening? You're not getting like the good tenants,
Right.
right?
Correct. Funny enough, just right before I moved to Hamilton, not to this property, to the other one that I was living before, I told him, "Hey, I'm moving to Hamilton, to the landlord," and he said, "No, no, no, no. I'll put you on 1,400." And I said, "No, man. Even if," and it made me think because I was gonna pay like thing at that point was 1,600, but he made me think, yeah, like I cannot go lower than that. But at the end, I said, no, no, it makes more sense for me to move to Hamilton. So that was the last decision, and I never
Mm-hmm.
gonna regret it because it was one of the best decisions I ever done. Moving to
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton, I'm happy, and yeah. But going back to business, talking about real estate, yeah, this is what I was working right now. I have another project with the
Oh,
same
hold
partner
on.
that I have here.
So let's stay with this project. So
Okay.
what? Oh, sorry. Want to finish? Yeah. Sorry.
No,
Finish.
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. No, no, you're right.
Okay. I was gonna say because I just want to stay on this like like the house that you live in,
Yeah.
because you said you encountered other problems, right? So tenants
Okay.
was more of like the past, but what other problems did you encounter on this
Okay.
project?
Well, at some point there was during the project itself, the renovation itself, there was some miscommunication with the contractor and the person who draw the
The permits?
drawings. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the drawings and pull the permits and the suppliers for we need a steel beam for the basement to open up one of the walls down there. So it came up with the wrong size, so it was shorter than expected. So we had to return it. We have to wait another 2 weeks for getting the dry one. That's one of the things. Um, what was the other thing? Like we had some insects that they were coming through the walls, so we have to do extermination for that. Um, Obviously, we need to upgrade the water line. That was not expecting because I think I measured wrongly. I guess at the beginning I thought was 3/4. I think or almost one, and right now we upgraded to 1 inch. So like I said, everything that it has to be done, it went done. And lately they said that I might need to do my roof in a couple of years. So that's something that I was not expecting, and actually was a part of the roof that it was only be able to see from the side of the other house, on the other house, in the next door house. So I didn't see that part of the roof. So everything else is perfect except for that part that I missed. So that's on me. That's on me. But
Sneaky, sneaky, right? They're like sneaking that side so you can't see it.
yeah, but yeah, no. At this point, if you want to make a little bit more cash flow, I could rent that sea can that I have in the back, the container, even the garage. So if I have options until I decide to go for the other unit. So that's a good
And
thing.
even while you're waiting, actually, I mean, advice for you if you and the audience, you can even check out, for example, because one of the things that have nothing to do with landlord and tenant laws is storage. You could even make it as storage for as long as until you decide to actually make them into units. And
Right.
I hear that even is nice and easy cash and like that. It doesn't like you can like if they don't pay, you can I think close it down pretty immediately. I don't know fully the rules of it, but just I don't know if you've ever thought of it, but I just wanted to bring it
Oh
up
yeah, no,
to help
no.
with cash flow.
We actually thought it. Actually, one of the other investors that I know told me he would rent it out for me to keep his stuff. So
Um,
I would rather, so I would rather to rent it to someone that I know and I trust than just a random person,
100%,
right? But
100%.
but
Yeah,
yeah, that's another option that we have,
yeah, that's awesome.
and we're still thinking about
And
it.
that's a good way like that to be able to increase the income a little more like that until you wait for those units to be created.
Another thing that happened that actually increased a little bit the expenses is my contractor was able to secure uh, 2 pairs of laundry and washer and dryer, right?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, he knew the manager of the store. I think was Bad Boys, and unfortunately, the manager passed away because he was older in age, and we lost those deals. So now we were probably in 1100 mark for a washer and dryer. Now we have to pay like 2000 for the pair. So there were like $2,000 increase just because of that. Like, it's very unfortunately that what happened, but things like that, like you never know what it could happen. So
Yeah. And like that, like it's true when you'll have like certain connections to deals and stuff, and then you don't have it anymore. And then you're like looking at numbers, and then they're like, oh, the reality of like how much things cost. Because we had a similar thing actually happen with we had a plumber, and sadly, same thing, he died. And then we're having to like deal with like completely different rates, and we're just like, oh my god, plumbing's so expensive because we're just so used to like those amazing plumbing deals.
exactly, well, exactly like that. Well, we have to change electricians because the electrician who was doing the project, he commit to another project, so he couldn't come. So we need to find another one, but I'm not 100% happy with. But yeah,
And
things like that.
how long did it take, like once you found out, like did that delay your project too, then having to find another electrician, or did you have enough time to at least swap over and find someone?
Well, because I hired a general contractor, he pretty much took care of that and he did it very fast. If you ask me what it took the most and actually it put the project in behind was one, the permits, but then after were the windows. We kind of, as soon as we got the permit, we did the deposit for the windows, and we're talking about May, something like that. It was December when the windows show up.
Oh,
So
wow.
so the project should have been done by October, then November, now December, ended up in early January because the windows pretty much show up at that time, and that put the project behind a little bit. So,
Mm.
so I
So
would
the Windows
recommend,
was then the major part? Actually, Windows and permits were the major parts that delayed the project then for you?
yes, because the window was more for the finishing part, right? Um, but the permits itself, like I mean, I count with that time for the permits because we knew that was gonna take, but you know, like the
Mm-hmm.
windows actually took more than what it should, and
Mm-hmm. What did they tell you the Windows would take? How long were you expecting them to take?
well, like at least like 3 months since we ordered them, but it actually took like 7 or 8 or something like that. And at some point, I went to Home Depot because I'm not well known on the Windows uh, business, but I went to Home Depot and I took a few pictures to my contractor and I asked him why we cannot just put this one in my house. Then he's trying to explain to me, yeah, like I mean we could, but then it's not gonna look as nice. Some of them might fit because none of these ones were on standard sizes.
It's
All
like,
of them, like behind me, I have like a bay window with whatever size, and I have all the windows with different sizes. And funny enough, when we bought the property, the people who were living before left a brand new window 4x4 on the container that it works perfectly because it's all clean A, whatever, rebate, whatever, and we couldn't put it because it was too big.
Mhm.
So it was cheaper just to put a one to start cutting whatever. So yeah, Windows. Order them as soon as you get your project running, or even before, if you
Yeah.
ask me.
And actually, I would say also ask, which actually I'm surprised your project manager didn't know to do this because unless of that, I don't know, the Windows people lie. Because like my favorite thing to do is when I'm talking to anyone about time frames, I do not put urgency into anything. I put, when I'm first asking, I will just go, hey, how long does it take for this is what happened with Toronto. And for example, same thing, you were in that time frame where if you bought, for example, I don't know, I don't think this is a problem now, but back at that time, the reason why yours were taking so long is because they were made in China. And
Yep.
that was one thing that actually we found out, same thing when we were talking about getting our windows done in Toronto, was that we talked to them, we asked, okay, what are the time frames for getting the windows? And they told us, they're like, if you buy anything from China, they're like, we don't even know time frames. That's how bad it was. They're like, maybe 6 months, but they're like, we're not sure. Like 4 to 6 months, I think they were thinking, but he's like, we don't know. He's like, if you want something within like, I think we got ours in 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. So, and he was only 1 week off, and we ended up getting our windows. They were made from Europe, and we only experienced, I think, like that, like just a 1 week delay, or maybe on time. But I think it was a 1 week delay. So it's like asking questions that don't show, for example, like I need them done for this. I mean, I don't think you guys did that because you knew yours would be a longer project, but it is important to ask them like what is their time frames for getting the windows, and where they're coming from. Obviously, last year was very important because like that, China like basically shut down. I don't know how this year is going to be for that. I haven't had to buy windows yet, but definitely asking those kind of questions are important because like that, like everyone I knew was having problems. Again, we were dealing with a higher end flip, so we were also needing to get like better quality windows too, which is obviously the Europe ones were better quality ones. But for example, I would have said if even if I were looking at another property, if it were related to that kind of time frame unknown, I would have gone more expensive just to make sure they got done in time. Again, I deal with flips, so I mean time is of the essence, mainly for me too. But just wanted to give you and the viewers that kind of tip too, that whenever you're talking to anyone, don't don't say like, I need this done by this. Because if you find a yes person, that's like the worst thing you can do. Because they'll be like, yeah, I'll get done. And then all of a sudden it doesn't. And it's because they're just saying yes to get your business. That's like the worst thing ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in our case was like that. Like he gave us actually the 3 or 4 months time period. Said perfect, no problem. Then after when we were following up on the date, said everything is shut down because of the COVID, blah blah blah. We're not getting material. Actually, these ones were coming from United States. I think was the glass coming from United States. Uh, so I don't have anything on time. I need to go to another manufacturer. A lot of things, and in the end, I was kind of pissed. So, anyways, at the same time, we got the windows on time. We got, well, not on time, but we got the windows after, and then we were able to finish. The other thing that we need to deal with was obviously the inspections from the city, and we were trying to apply for the rebate program from upgrading your home as well. So without the windows, we couldn't finish the thing, and we have already over the time frame that they give you. So that's why we were a little bit in a rush.
Yeah. And another good point that you're making that I want to bring up is also that it also does depend on timing too. Because maybe when you got the windows, right, maybe no one even, like that hasn't happened yet, that people knew these delays were happening compared to when we were asking about windows and then all of a sudden. So that's also the thing that I guess when we're in these kind of markets where things can fluctuate, we just don't know what can be changing and what can impact us like that, like windows taking like an extra 4 months just to come. So I wanted to bring that up because it is true. Like it also depends on when you guys ordered yours, and let's say when we ordered ours, because we were maybe already in the middle of it. They already knew. We already knew, like okay, everything's closed up, so we're not gonna get it, and we knew where to go to grab the ones we needed to make sure we were on time. So I mean that probably was also a huge factor too.
Exactly. So yeah.
Any other things that you'd like to let us know about your project? Any other problems that you'd like to let us know?
To be honest, I think at this point the only thing that I didn't know and we're facing is just losing too much heat, and it's because we never insulate the attic. So I didn't know that can cause a lot of your major bills for Everbridge. So that's probably, we're gonna do that this weekend to isolate the attic.
Yeah. That's good. I wouldn't mind hearing what your results are of that, because I feel like it's a double whammy. It's like the bills are already going up, expensive too, and then plus, if you're losing the heat. So I'd be curious. I feel like we'll talk in another like 2-3 months, and I'm gonna be like, did your bill change?
Well, I'll tell you, my partner actually called me yesterday and he told me like, this bill from Bridge came super high. And I said, that makes no sense. We moved this one in January 21st. So it's pretty much 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. And the first bill was super insane as per him. So we need to check and see what was happening. So I definitely will tell you if that will help. Actually, once again, I consult with another partner who's more knowledgeable in the area, and he advised me to do the attic insulation. And this person I know and trust, so most likely I will do the attic insulation. And if everybody knows something about attic insulation, please let me know, because I'm in the business for that right now.
Sounds good. You should talk to Giancarlo. He'll tell you.
Okay. I'll call Giancarlo.
I'll give him your information so you can ask him, because he can definitely tell you that stuff for sure.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. Sorry, you wanted to say one last thing?
One last thing is thank you for having me here. For the people who don't know, like, Diana was the person who actually got me into the real estate business. So I really appreciate everything that she has done and shared with me, and try to keep me on track of everything that I have done so far. So thank you to you, Diana.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Love that you could be open and share your projects. I think definitely now is the time for people to start opening up more about the problems, because it's inevitable. We're all dealing with problems right now, and we might as well be all learning from each other's experiences, because we just want to all help each other out. So thank you so much for coming on. If you love what you heard from Juan, follow him. I'll be tagging him on this video. If you love watching my shows, make sure you follow me too. So thanks so much, Juan, for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye, Juan. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Diana. Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.